everybody, and welcome back to the PonCast. So, earlier today, there was just one fight event that happened, which was UFC Vegas 75, aka UFC Fight Night, Marvin Vettori versus Jared Cannonier. For me, it was a pretty underwhelming event for such a card with so much hype. I did watch it, but it didn't live up quite to my expectations. I was honestly expecting a finish in the main event. I thought either Vettori would knock Cannonier out or Cannonier would knock Vettori out, but sadly it ended in a unanimous decision win for Jared Cannonier. Congrats to Cannonier for that either way. But in the co-main, which I was also looking forward to, Arman Tsarukyan, the wrestling phenom from Russia, also of Armenian heritage, secured a victory by TKO via ground and pound over Joaquim Silva. So I'm happy to see Arman Tsarukyan get the finish. He's one of the reasons why I enjoy MMA wrestling, and he's one of the prime examples of making wrestling and MMA more fun. And while a lot of people are talking about the UFC card that had just transpired earlier this morning, my mind is actually more fixated on Glory Collision 5, which happened a couple hours prior to UFC Vegas 75. Collision 5 was a stacked kickboxing card, to say the least. 4 title fights. Okay, so the first title fight you had ND Semelier defending the Glory welterweight title against Jay Overmeer. Second title fight you had Donovan Weiss defending the middleweight title against Serkan Oskaglayan. Sorry if I butchered the pronunciation there. Turkish isn't my first language. Third title fight you had Tariq Kababez challenging Mohamed Amine for the vacant interim Glory Light Heavyweight Championship. And last but certainly not least, the fight everyone had been waiting for. 2 teammates fighting each other for the for the interim Glory Heavyweight Championship. Antonio Plazibat versus Kevin Tariq Asaro. It was a highly anticipated fight with a lot of build-up, and needless to say, it lived up to my expectations. And also, something I really wanted to talk about was I saw a Cinderella story in kickboxing play out. Anyway, before that, I just want to quickly recap the title fight results. As with regards to Semelier versus Overmeer in the welterweight title fight, I didn't really agree with the scoring for the fight that ended with Semelier retaining the welterweight title. I thought Overmeer did enough work. He stayed active throughout the entirety of 5 rounds. He landed pretty clean strikes. He connected on several nasty knees. But according to the judges and the commentators, apparently, Semelier landed the shots that counted. He landed some punches that rocked Jay Overmeer. But there's nothing much you can do now. The judges scored the fight the way they saw it. So Semelier is still champion. He's made his 2nd title defense. Congratulations to him. I do hope Jay Overmeer gets another title shot. He is a great kickboxer. And a skilled one at that. In the middleweight fight, there was a lot of hype behind Serkan Oskaglayan. I'd actually seen a video about him from the renowned Lawrence Kenshin Striking Breakdowns. To keep it short, Serkan Oskaglayan is a cousin of the famed Gokhan Saki, a K1 kickboxer, and he also trains under Big Mike Passenier, a legendary kickboxing trainer in the Netherlands. And he's also a training partner of also another legend, Badr Hari. So, there were a lot of expectations going into the fight behind Serkan Oskaglayan. However, Donovan Weiss came prepared, and he basically pieced him up for the entire 5 rounds. I think by the start of the 3rd round, Serkan Oskaglayan he was just done. He was a beaten man, and Donovan Weiss retained the title by unanimous decision. No argument there. He's a champ. Interim light heavyweight title fight between Tariq Kababez and Mohamed Amine. So Kababez had another opponent scheduled, but oh gosh, his name slips my mind. I'm gonna hit the laptop, do a quick search, and see who he was supposed to face. If I'm not mistaken, he was supposed to face Donaghy Abena for the undisputed light heavyweight title, but Abena pulled out first because he was injured. Oh yeah, so okay, his original opponent was Donaghy Abena for the undisputed glory light heavyweight title, but then Abena pulled out on June 14th. So yeah, and he was replaced by Mohamed Amine. So that's kind of real close. And Mohamed Amine, well, it was 3-4 days. It was just 3 days. 3 days notice, basically. He had 3 days to prepare. And you could already see that by the 2nd round, Mohamed Amine was gassed out. He was like withdrawn. He was distracted. I just got the sense that he just wanted to get out of the fight. He didn't care if he won or lost the fight. And Kababez proceeded to knock him out in the 2nd round. He proceeded to knock him out in the 4th round. He just didn't answer the 10 count. And but props to him for taking the title fight and lasting until the 4th round. I'm sure a lesser fighter would have gotten out in, say, the 2nd or maybe 3rd round. So yeah, but the main story I want to talk about, perhaps the greatest Cinderella story in all of kickboxing that I've had the pleasure of witnessing, happened in the main event. Before all of this ever happened, before the interim glory heavyweight title fight between Tariq Asaro and Antonio Plazabot. Antonio Plazabot was originally supposed to face the undisputed champion, Rico Verhoeven, for the undisputed heavyweight title at this particular event. But somehow Verhoeven, he got himself injured. I think it was a knee injury. And they just couldn't get Verhoeven recovered in time for Glory Collision 5. But Plazabot, props to him, being the sportsman, ever the sportsman, wanting to keep the fans pleased and wanting to stay active, he decided, you know what, screw this. I'm gonna take another fight. I'm gonna take an interim title fight. Make it a fight for the interim heavyweight title. And so Glory organized a 4-man heavyweight tournament, which took place at Glory 85 around April 29th. So there was a 4-man heavyweight tournament to determine who would be Antonio Plazabot's opponent at Glory Collision 5. And this was actually one of the more entertaining, one night kickboxing tournaments I've seen, you know. It kind of reminded me of the K1 days, K1 World Grand Prix days. Back then, I was like 13, 14 years old. But man, watching that now, you know, it was as close as I could get to the golden age of K1 kickboxing, if you will. So they had the 4-man heavyweight tournament that included Jafar Wilnis, Enver Slivar. I'm sorry if I butchered that. He's Bosnian. Murat Aygun and Kevin Tariq Osaro. Okay, so Tariq Osaro faces Jafar Wilnis, knocks him out in the semifinals. Murat Aygun knocks out Enver, the Bosnian guy, in the second round as well. And so Osaro faces Murat Aygun, who comes in as somewhat the favorite, even though Murat is making his Glory debut at this event at Glory 85, because previously Murat Aygun had fought with one championship. He'd actually challenged for the light heavyweight championship, and light heavyweight in this case being 225 pounds. I'll list the metric unit conversion over here for 225 pounds. But the one light heavyweight champion is Roman Kriklia, and anyone who watches One Championship and its kickboxing program knows Roman Kriklia is damn near unstoppable. So anyways, against all odds, Kevin Tariq Osaro TKOs Murat Aygun and goes on to win the 4-man heavyweight tournament and is the new opponent for Antonio Plazibat. He faces Antonio Plazibat for the interim Glory Heavyweight Championship. But there's a backstory. Both Kevin Tariq Osaro and Antonio Plazibat train under the same guy, Mike Passanier, aka Big Mike. Now, Big Mike is a renowned kickboxing trainer in the Netherlands. So, list of his students include, but is not limited to, Melvin Manhoof, a former Cage Rage champion and an It's Showtime champion, and Gokhan Saki, a former Glory Light Heavyweight champion and K1 Hawaii Grand Prix champion, Alistair Overeem, a former K1 World Grand Prix champion and former Strikeforce Heavyweight champion, and last but not least, the legendary Badr Hari, who is a bona fide kickboxing legend. He is the 2007-2008 K1 Heavyweight Champion and 2009-2010 It's Showtime Heavyweight Champion. So yeah, Big Mike has a stacked resume, and this is just the top students he has. He has so much more. So yeah, that's the backstory. It's two friends turned foes, and Mike wasn't in either of their corners on fight night. He was actually in the commentary booth. I'm sure it was a difficult experience for him to see his two top students fight each other. Granted, it was for a, top prize. But this is where it gets interesting. Against all odds, Tariq Osaro comes out on top. So let me rewind back a bit, okay? Antonio Plazibat made his Glory debut in June of 2019, okay? And prior to his fight with Kevin Tariq Osaro at Glory Collision 5, he has a 7-1 record, okay? And out of 7 wins, 4 of them have come by knockout. He has got vicious punching power. I watched his fight against Benjamin Adegbuyi at Glory Collision 3, and oh my god, it chilled me to the bones, alright? This guy could actually kill somebody in the kickboxing ring, like, when I watched that fight. That's what I thought in my mind. So, yeah, and by the time of his last fight before Glory Collision 5, he was pretty much the solidified #1 contender for the Glory Heavyweight Championship, held by the King, Rico Verhoeven. But unfortunately, Rico Verhoeven, as I said before, he got injured in training. So their title fight was postponed. But Plazbat decided to stay active and take an interim title fight instead. That's where we enter the main character of the story, Kevin Tariq Asaro. So, Kevin Tariq Asaro, he actually came onto my radar even before Glory. So back in 2022, One Championship was actually doing a lot of these Road to One tournaments. Some of them actually leading to the tournament winners signing with the promotion, some of them actually going nowhere even after the tournament has completed. I think in this case, the tournament led to nowhere. So, in this case, Kevin Tariq Asaro competed in a Road to One tournament in the Netherlands. It was called Road to One Utrecht. I'm not sure if I pronounced the name of the city correctly. Not really familiar with Dutch cities. So anyways, he wins the 4-man heavyweight Road to One Europe tournament, okay? And when I was reading through Wikipedia, of all places, I see the Nigerian flag next to his name. And I was like, oh my god, this guy must be something special, because let's be honest, you don't see many kickboxers, and by kickboxers I mean K1 rules guys, coming out of the African continent, so to speak, especially from Nigeria, alright? Kickboxers, they usually come from, for me, kickboxers, they come from the Netherlands, Suriname, or Morocco. That's where the top kickboxers come from, especially if you're holding an event in the Netherlands. So I was really surprised. I was thinking, wow, this Kevin Tariq Asaro must be something special. But then, of course, I never got to see him in One Championship. That tournament was a dud. But then, lo and behold, Kevin Tariq Asaro made his debut at the event Glory 80 Studio. So Glory 80, the original Glory 80 event, was supposed to be headlined by a heavyweight fight between the legend Badr Hari and the Polish kickboxer Arkadiusz Wojciech. It was a rematch of a fight Wojciech had won in upset fashion. So apparently Badr Hari had knocked down Wojciech twice with body shots, okay? And I'm talking body shots from a big heavyweight. Usually one body shot is enough to put you out, but Wojciech recovered from these 2 body shots and came back to knock Badr Hari out with a head kick. It was like, what the hell? It was the comeback. The comeback when you talk about kickboxing. So like Glory, and at that point, Badr Hari's losses were just piling up, and everybody was just, right, chalking it down to a fluke. So Glory decided to book a rematch with between Badr Hari and Arkadiusz Wojciech. The problem is, I don't know exactly what happened. The security at the event, which I believe took place in Belgium, it was shit, to say the least. My bad, excuse me. Badr Hari versus Arkadiusz Wojciech was supposed to be the co-main event in Glory 80, with the main event being a heavyweight match between Jamal Ben Sadiq and Levi Rigters. So, I think halfway through the match, or maybe just into the second round, the crowd started rioting. I think it was between the Polish fans and the Moroccan fans. Stories differ as to who instigated the riots, but basically it broke out and it was complete chaos. And just for the safety of the fighters and the fans in attendance, they had to cancel the fucking event, alright? In the middle of the fight. My dumbass actually purchased the pay-per-view. And my plan was to buy the pay-per-view in the evening before the fight and then wake up in the morning to watch it, on replay. Imagine my surprise when I woke up the next morning to find that when I clicked on the pay-per-view, it was unavailable for watch. And there were a lot of complaints filed on the Glory Facebook page and Glory website. Believe me, I was one of the people who filed the complaints. And originally Glory said they were going to hand out refunds. To no one's surprise, no refunds were ever handed out. Instead, they decided to do this fucking Glory 80 studio. It's mostly full of unnecessary rematches. But one of them included a fight between Kevin Tariq Asaro and an English guy named Rice Brundinel. And that was where I got to see the power of Kevin Tariq Asaro for the first time. That's where I got to see him fight. And man, I realized, wow, this guy is packing. But at the time, I just thought, Glory heavyweight division, it's pretty unpredictable at times, and I just thought he'd just fall into obscurity, another casualty in society, sort of quote Sum 41, you know what I'm saying? So anyways, he beats Rice Brundinel, and prior to his fight at Glory Collision 5, he goes 3-1, but he wins in his next 3 wins. He wins all 3 fights by knockout. So, Kevin Tariq Asaro is definitely packing some power, which isn't all that uncommon for a heavyweight kickboxer. But things start to take an interesting turn when he wins that Glory 4-man heavyweight tournament to determine the opponent for Antonio Plazabot in the interim Glory heavyweight title fight. Alright, so from just a regular heavyweight prospect in the Glory roster, he's now actually challenging for the interim heavyweight title against one of the fiercest, most intimidating heavyweights, and also his teammate. And once the opening bell sounded, I was in absolute awe of what I saw. Okay, sure, Antonio Plazabot came out with his pressure, his deceptive high guard, and his pressure, the occasional bombs thrown, the occasional haymaker. But wow, Kevin Tariq Asaro was calm and calculated, he didn't let the pressure get to his head. He just stuck to his game plan, if you will. He played the game. And he did what kickboxers do. He kickboxed. He kicked and he punched. He kicked and he punched. And to my surprise, before I knew it, he was ahead. He was 2 rounds up. And I don't know, I seemed to notice that by the start of the 3rd round, Antonio Plazabot seemed defeated already. And I was like, oh my god, could this possibly be? And by the end of the 3rd round, I was thinking to myself, this could just be it. This could just be it. All the hype and the build-up for Antonio Plazabot versus Rico Verhoeven could probably come crashing down right now. No knockout happened yet, but Kevin Tariq Asaro continued to land with such pinpoint precision, Like, I don't think, aside from Rico Verhoeven, who I haven't seen fight in over a year, I guess, I've never seen a heavyweight fighter in Glory fight with such you know, precision and accuracy. You know, he was so technical. Kevin Tariq Asaro was slowly dismantling his teammate Antonio Plazibat, and like by the final round, I just thought, I was hoping to. I was hoping. Everybody loves a good Cinderella story, but I was thinking to myself, this is it. And lo and behold, Kevin Tariq Asaro finally scored the knockdown, and Plazibat refused to get back up. And just like that, Kevin Tariq Asaro had become the new interim Glory Heavyweight Champion. At that moment, a certain lyric from one Eminem song came to my mind. You only get one shot. Do not miss your chance. And that's exactly what Kevin Tariq Asaro did. To me, in my personal opinion, I think the story of Kevin Tariq Asaro is one of the greatest stories in kickboxing. Okay, from a relatively unknown prospect in the heavyweight division of Glory, he's now the interim challenge and is certainly guaranteed a title shot for the undisputed heavyweight championship against the king of kickboxing, Rico Verhoeven. Now, regardless of the result of his fight with Rico Verhoeven, I think he's already accomplished a lot. And that's what I appreciate about kickboxing. You know, its unpredictability. Because, let's be honest, those who are watching Glory and those who are watching kickboxing, including myself, were expecting Antonio Plazibat to emerge victorious. Hell, they were even myself were expecting Antonio Plazibat to come out on top with a knockout victory to, you know, decisively claim the interim Glory Heavyweight Championship. But it turns out nothing is ever certain. And Kevin Tariq Asaro is living proof. And I just can't help but feel happy for the guy. You know? I know Kevin Tariq Asaro is probably never going to watch this, but Kevin, if you're ever watching this, well done and congratulations, dude. You earned it. Yeah, so anyways, that's what I wanted to talk about for today's episode of the PonCast. That's all I have to say. And for those of you who made it this far, don't forget to press like and subscribe. And apart from that, I wish you all a very good night.